Okay, let's be real for a sec. Insecurity in relationships, right? We've all been there. Yep. You know that feeling.
Yeah.
Today we're diving into this this really personal account, almost like someone's diary, and it's about this super tough moment they went through.
Okay.
But it's not just about their story. It's about how easily these tiny things, the ones we usually just ignore,
Right.
can become these massive triggers emotionally.
Totally. And this story is fascinating because it shows how easily insecurity can just like totally warp how we see things.
Yeah.
And it can send us down this path we end up regretting big time.
Exactly. And it starts so normal. It's a quiet kitchen. The fridge is humming. Mm-hmm. You can already feel the tension, though. Our narrator is on her tablet, just scrolling Twitter, sees her husband liked a recruiter's post.
Oh.
On the surface, harmless, right?
Yeah.
But for her,
yeah,
it's this huge EE trigger.
It's so classic, right? Like, insecurity isn't really about the thing itself, the like in this case.
Right.
It's the meaning that we give it.
Yeah.
It's all in our heads. Our minds just go nuts, invent these worst case scenarios. And they might not even be real at all.
And she even says, I knew it wasn't logical. I knew I shouldn't care. Yet logic had zero sway over all the emotions building up inside me. It's like that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by fear, doubt, even when it's probably not rational.
Yeah, I've been there.
Right.
Big time. So many people have felt that. Like something's off, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
It's powerful intuition, but it can be dangerous if you just, let the anxiety go wild.
And on top of all of that, she feels this growing distance between them, She mentions he's distracted, less affectionate, and it adds this layer of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Like she already senses they're drifting apart. Is that common for relationships to go through phases like that?
It is pretty normal for relationships to, ebb and flow. The important thing is communication, open communication, being able to talk about those changes,
Yeah.
without jumping to conclusions. But when there's already that insecurity, simmering,
oh yeah,
even normal ups and downs can feel like the end of the world.
And that brings us to this big moment, the phone incident. She demands to see his phone, right? She's convinced there's proof of all her fears in there.
Oh boy.
He hesitates, but eventually he caves.
Uh-oh.
What does that say about their dynamic, that whole back and forth?
Well, the phone becomes like this symbol, of control. It's this desperate attempt to find something, anything, to calm her anxiety. But, even if it feels like a way to get certainty, it comes with a huge cost. You violate trust, you make your partner feel accused, and it's not fair.
And it's so interesting to me because even after she finds nothing, on the phone.
Right.
Her unease doesn't go away. Why is that? You'd think that evidence, the opposite of what she was thinking, would make her feel better, right?
It's because the real issue isn't about finding proof. It's about this lack of security, inner security.
Yeah.
She's looking for something outside of herself to fix something inside.
Wow.
It's like trying to fill a bottomless pit with compliments. It will never be enough.
That's such a powerful image, and it makes you realize external validation can only go so far. And this is where it escalates dramatically. She, in this burst of emotion, she slaps her husband across the face. The source describes the sound, the shock, just this wave of regret. How do we even begin to process and act like that?
I think, we have to start by saying that violence is never okay in any relationship. And what we see here in this moment, it's complete loss of control.
Yeah.
Driven by all these bottled up emotions and these deep insecurities that haven't been dealt with. You can feel the weight of what happens next. The source talks about his shock, the hurt. But it turns to anger so quickly. He says, this behavior of yours, and this is what will push me away. And he walks out. Leaves her alone with what she's done.
And his reaction, it just shows how damaging it can be to let insecurity control us. It shatters trust, creates this distance, and tragically, it just reinforces the very fears she was trying to escape in the first place.
It's heartbreaking because you can feel her regret. Instantly. She knows she messed up, hurt him, hurt their relationship. It feels like a turning point though, right?
Yeah, I think so. And the title of her account, Why Did I Slap My Husband? There's self-awareness there. It's the
Mhm.
start of taking responsibility, realizing that actions have consequences.
It makes me wonder what could she have done differently? How could this have been, I don't know, de-escalated before it got to that point?
Well, a few things come to mind. First, dealing with that underlying insecurity, that's huge. Therapy, maybe journaling, self-reflection, figuring out where these fears are coming from.
So instead of like demanding to see his phone,
Right.
what if she had just stopped
Yeah.
and thought about what was causing her anxiety?
Exactly. Creating that space for self-awareness, it's powerful. And secondly, open, honest communication with her partner.
Right.
Telling him how she feels, her concerns, but in a way that's not accusatory. That could have led to a much more productive conversation.
Like imagine her saying, "Hey, I've been feeling kind of insecure lately and I've noticed some distance between us. Can we talk about it?"
That's perfect. It's vulnerability. It's expressing needs directly.
Mhm.
It's about creating a safe space for dialogue. And on his side, listening, really listening.
Mhm.
Reassurance. That could have gone a long way in rebuilding that trust.
It's easy to judge her actions, but I think it's important to remember that everyone makes mistakes, especially when emotions are running high.
Right.
The key is to learn from them and find better ways to cope.
Absolutely. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding how destructive insecurity can be and how important it is to face it head on. At the end of the day, healthy relationships need trust, communication, and that willingness to work through challenges together as
Yeah.
a team.
And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier, inner security. It sounds kind of cliche, but how do you actually build that within yourself?
It's a journey, not a not a quick fix.
Right.
But there are some things that can help. One technique is cognitive reframing. It's about challenging those negative thought patterns
Okay.
and replacing them with more balanced ones. So instead of automatically jumping to the worst case scenario, she could ask herself, what's another explanation for his behavior?
So questioning those automatic negative thoughts, looking for other interpretations.
Exactly. Another helpful tool is mindfulness. It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It can help you break out of those anxiety spirals, create space for calmer, more rational thinking.
Both of those sound like they require a lot of self-awareness and effort.
They do, but
Yeah.
but the results can be huge. By developing these skills, she could start to separate her self-worth from needing that external validation
Yeah.
and cultivate a stronger sense of inner security, and that would make her less reactive to perceived threats and more capable of handling relationship challenges
Yeah.
with more resilience.
This has been so insightful. It's not just about understanding the story, but about giving our listeners tools to use in their own lives.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We want to go beyond just rehashing the story and help people, build healthier relationships.
So as we wrap up this exploration of insecurity and how it affects us,
Yeah.
what's the one takeaway you'd want our listeners to remember?
If you're dealing with insecurity in your own relationship, remember this. You're not alone and there is hope.
Mhm.
By understanding what's going on and having the right tools, you can break free from those destructive patterns.
Yeah.
And you can build a more fulfilling, more secure connection with your partner.
It really all comes down to taking responsibility for our emotions, learning how to communicate better, and building that sense of self-worth, one that doesn't rely on someone else to validate us.
That's it. And remember, getting professional help from a therapist or counselor, that can be incredibly valuable. They can give you support and insights along the way.
That's a great point. Sometimes we need a little extra help to navigate those tricky emotional waters. So to close out this conversation, we want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Imagine you're in her shoes. What specific steps would you take today to address your insecurities and rebuild trust with your partner? That's a tough question, but it can lead to some serious growth, positive change. And remember, even when there's conflict, there's always potential for healing and for understanding ourselves and our relationships better. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of insecurity and its impact on our lives.
Yeah.
It's easy to focus on the big dramatic parts of this story, but I think what's really important is what we can learn from it. Like, what are some things our listeners can actually do if they're going through something similar in their own relationships?
One thing that really sticks out to me is this idea of shifting from being reactive to being proactive. So instead of waiting for those insecurities to kind of explode,
Right.
what if we had tools to deal with them before they even get to that point?
That makes sense. But how do we even know when we're slipping into that reactive mode? Are there signs we should be looking out for?
Oh, absolutely. Pay attention to your body. Are you feeling tense, heart racing?
Hmm.
Notice your thoughts. Are you jumping to conclusions or like catastrophizing everything?
Yeah.
Those are pretty good indicators that that insecurity is starting to take over.
So it's about tuning into those physical and mental cues before they spiral, right?
Right.
What can we do in those moments to sort of break that cycle?
One thing you can try is to just pause and just notice your breath. Take a few deep breaths, really focus on them.
Okay.
It might sound too simple,
Yeah.
but it can really help create some space between you and that knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
So you can actually respond instead of just reacting.
It's like hitting the reset button before things blow up.
Exactly.
I can see how that could be helpful. But what about those really deep insecurities, the ones that keep coming back no matter what you do?
Well, that's where therapy can be really helpful. A good therapist can help you figure out the root of those insecurities. Maybe they come from past experiences or attachment patterns you learned early on.
Hmm.
And they can give you a safe space to work through those emotions and develop healthier ways of coping.
So it's not about blaming your past, but understanding how it might be affecting you now.
Right. Therapy can give you that outside perspective and
Yeah.
help you rewrite those old stories.
This whole conversation has really shown how important communication is. But what if talking about these insecurities, what if it just makes you feel, even more vulnerable
Yeah.
and exposed?
I get that. I get that. It's important to approach those conversations with vulnerability, but not with blame.
Yeah.
So instead of accusing your partner, try using I statements
Okay.
to talk about how you feel and what you need. For example, you could say, "I've been feeling a bit insecure lately, and I could really use some reassurance."
It's about bringing your partner into the conversation as a partner, not an enemy.
Exactly. And remember, communication goes both ways. So encourage your partner to share their perspective too.
Hmm.
Creating that safe space to be open and honest with each other that can really strengthen your bond and help you understand each other better.
So as we wrap up this really insightful conversation, is there one final thought you'd want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say, remember this. Building a secure, fulfilling relationship, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It takes self-awareness, it takes communication, and it takes that willingness to do the work, the inner work.
Hmm.
But it's so worth it. When we can show up as our true selves and be vulnerable, that's when we create space for real connection and lasting love.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into insecurity and how it affects our relationships. We hope you've learned some valuable things and that you have some new tools to use as you navigate your own journey towards greater self-awareness and more fulfilling connections. Until next time.